What's up, everybody? DKG's Avos. And I got lemonade today. Anyway, we are on round 4, I believe. So both me and my opponent at this point are 3-0. This is my first recording of the day, so I'm not quite in the groove, so bear with me. Now, looking at his team just off the top of my head, Ray Ogre team, right? I can see it in front of me. It is a Ray Ogre team. At this particular point, if you're looking at this team on the preview, I kind of expect that you're either going to see a Thunderous leadout or a Talonflame leadout. And you kind of need to gauge which one's going to come based on your team. So in my instance, I kind of assumed that it was going to be Thunderous, right? You kind of assumed that it's going to be Thunderous because I've got Talonflame, so he's going to be able to bop Talonflame with a Thunderbolt, maybe get some T-Waves out, keep the speed controlled despite my Tailwind, because, I mean, if I'm at a quarter of my speed and double my speed, then I'm still at half speed, so it doesn't really matter to him as long as everything's paralyzed, right? So you see Thunderous, and then for whatever reason, Ray Ogre teams like to lead out either Ray or Ogre a lot of the time. And so part of the reason I think this is that because they've got the Ray, they can come in with Ogre and then just like Origin Pulse or Water Spout everything despite there being a Groudon lead out. I think that's kind of what it is, so they can try and get the double down. Do I even have my double down? There it is. So they can try and get the double down, right? That's really what they want. They really want this double down, which was a delicious sandwich. Rest in peace. Sorry, double down. I miss you. The Doublicious sandwich is not a replacement. Anyway, because they usually lead out either Ray or Ogre, I decide that I'm going to go ahead and go with Kang and Gengar. So if I've got Thunderous and Ray, then I can probably try and get a fake out on something. Maybe the Ray is going to protect, and then I can try and get an Icy Wind or a Shadow Ball and a Double Edge or something, right? We try and get something going. Regardless, you're going to try and get something with the Kang Gengar leadout. The Talonflame leadout in this instance probably doesn't help too much because I know that the Tailwind isn't going to help out that much. If he does decide that he wants to go with Talonflame and get the Tailwind, then I can start spamming Icy Wind and try and get things going my way that way. Or if he's got the Togekiss with Follow Me, I can go ahead and use a spread move in Icy Wind and then try and knock it out. Or Sludge Bomb it, just hit it in the face. You know, I've got speed control available, even despite him having 3 forms of speed control on his team. So let's jump into this real quick and get this. Ooh, that is real loud. Okay, now that we got our audio kind of under control, you can see that I lead out the Kang Gengar. That is a really common lead out for me. And now what kind of surprised me is that he opted for Kyogre. I did kind of expect that it was going to be a Ray over Kyogre, but as I said, one of them usually leads out. I'm going to go ahead and get my camera out of the way so you can see the actual match. So in this position, with Kang Gengar and Kyogre, right? A lot of times, you're going to see a Protect on the Kyogre, and like in this position alone, I expect Kyogre to Protect, and then Thunderous to try and hit some Swaggers, or hit a T-Wave, or Taunt, or something, right? Because the biggest threat on the field from me, or for me, is Kyogre. Right? Everybody wants to take down that Kyogre. Everybody wants to fake out that pressure that Kyogre. So I'm going to ignore that because that's... listen, if it's going to protect anyway, it doesn't do me any good. And Kyogre often run Protect. Now, out of the 2 of these, since Kyogre almost always runs Protect, Thunderous is less likely to run Protect. Less likely. I have mentioned that in round 1, I expected that Thunderous was either going to Protect or Switch, but this is a different layout, this is a different presentation, so I expect that Thunderous is not going to have Protect on this team, just because of the way the team looks. I can't explain it necessarily, but when you start playing enough Pokemon, this does not look like a Thunderous that has Protect or will Protect. So that kind of explains where I'm going from here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Icy Wind, because I want to make sure that this Kyogre, as long as it's timid, is going to be slower than me, and he's like, Gengar's got a Focus Sash, so let's Thunderbolt, and then go for the Water Spout. But since his Kyogre didn't protect, you can imagine that he is going to go ahead and get this Double Down, and I'm going to be a real sad panda. I'm not too excited about this, but I get the Double Edge, I pull out that Thundurus, he doesn't get any T-Waves, so I still have a little bit of speed control for the next, like, 10 seconds while I'm still praying that he has Origin Pulse and that it can miss. So that's basically a full power Water Spout, and we'll just give him the Double Down. I'll give it to you. So, in this position, and I pause it right here, because I have nothing on the field. You can see my nothing on the field because there's nothing there. He still has Kyogre. Look at this field, alright? This is what I call a double down. It's a triple down, so it's a triple stacker of double down. There's nothing on the field except Kyogre, but this Kyogre is at -1 speed, and because of the way his team looks, with Kyogre, I know that as long as Gengar can hit something with an Icy Wind, that I'm going to be okay with Kyurem. So, he brings out Togekiss, and I bring out Kyurem, and then I bring out my own Kyogre. Alright, now, this may look like... I'm going to go ahead and let that Primal revert real quick, because that animation takes for freaking ever. But this may look like I'm in a little bit of a precarious position, just because you're like, okay, well, he's got a Fairy out, you can be in a lot of trouble because of Follow Me, he could set up the Tailwind, he could protect and Tailwind. There's a lot of possibilities in this position, but the best thing for me to do is go ahead and try and hit Thunder on this Kyogre, not worry about the Origin Pulse, because I know that's not going to do a whole lot of damage to Kyogre, and I need to make sure that Kyogre is limited in its ability to do anything. So we're going to go ahead and target Kyogre with the Thunder because I have it, because I run Origin Pulse, I don't worry about the Water Spout, and then bop this Togekiss with an Ice Beam. Now the Stab, super effective, nearly max special attack, just, I mean, that Ice Beam does a whole lot of damage. So I'm pretty sure that that's probably going to one-shot it. And then, you see how much damage that Thunder does, we can pretty well assume that this was a timid Kyogre with no investment. And that puts me in a pretty good position. Now right here, I know that you already saw what came out, but I'm worried about Rayquaza, right? Because that basically means that I have to double target into Rayquaza to try and prevent any damage from Rayquaza, which puts me in a really awkward position. So if Rayquaza pops in here, right, then he's forcing me to decide one or the other, right? So, as long as my Kyogre has taken some damage, it's probably going down to a Dragon Ascent. And as long as my Kyurem has taken any damage whatsoever, it's definitely going down to a Dragon Ascent. That's just the way this team works right now. And so, I'm worried about Rayquaza in the back, and I'm worried that I've got basically a 50-50 on my hands. But we see Talonflame come out, and at this point, I'm going to tell you, it was over. I won. It didn't matter, right? Because yes, I could be able to take out the Rayquaza if I land the double target on one or the other. It just doesn't matter. But from this point, even though this Kyogre protects, I land the Origin Pulse, which is really nice for me. But I land the Origin Pulse and we're fine. Had he gone after Kyurem and then tried to Water Spout or Origin Pulse or whatever, I don't think it would have mattered. He would have been able to bring it in a lot closer. Instead of a 2-0, it would have been a 1-0. But because I was winning on the speed tier here against his Kyogre, it really didn't matter what he brought or what he attacked, because I was still going to win this match. So, there we go. That is round 4. Avos now 4-0. It gets rough from here. Now, I will say just for a second, while I bring up the camera again, this particular instance, I think, can be attributed a little bit to my opponent being Maybe that was the next match. I don't remember. I think Tyler was... I think so. I think this was the person I was playing against, where he was a little nervous to be playing against me because somebody had recognized me and been like, oh, are you that? Are you? I feel like, I know, do you have a stream? And I was like, yeah. Trying to stay anonymous for as much of this tournament as possible, but somebody recognized me at St. Louis and kind of called me out for having a stream. And I think that made him nervous and meant that he felt like he needed to make plays that he wouldn't normally have to. With that said, that might have been the influence on why he didn't bring Rayquaza. Bringing Rayquaza would have made that a lot tougher decision for me, and I can't tell you how I would have played that out. But as it stands, we are 4-0 in the tournament, so I'll see you guys later for round 5.